The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. It's Leanne Denby, President of ACTS. How are you all? Thank you for joining us for this Green Impact overview. You'll notice another person on your screens, hopefully, Charlotte Bonner. She's our Green Impact expert all the way from London, and you're probably all familiar with Sue Hopkins. She's from the University of Melbourne and also from ACTS, as you know, but she's here today with us as the University of Melbourne staff member. So we're going to be using the go-to process for the entire webinar. So you will notice that you have a panel somewhere on your screen, and anytime you want to ask a question or interact, you can use the chat function down the bottom there, and Rhiannon and I will be trying to keep an eye on that to make sure that we don't miss anything coming up through that avenue. So please feel free to use that. So either the questions or the chat function, it doesn't matter, either will work, and we should see the messaging. We'll go through a bit of the Green Impact, so Charlotte's going to lead that discussion, and then Sue's going to give us an overview from the University of Melbourne perspective, how they found rollout of Green Impact. We'll talk a little bit about the costs and inclusions before we open it to all of you for any question and answers that you may have, and we'll round up within the hour. So without further ado, I'd like to pass over to Charlotte Bonnet from Green Impact. Thanks, Charlotte.
Very much, Leanne. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My brief for this morning is to introduce you to the Green Impact Programme, to give you an overview of what it is and what it can achieve. So that's what I'm setting out to do. I always find it quite useful to start with a little bit of context and a little bit of history. So I work for the National Union of Students in the UK. We're a membership organisation for 600 students' unions in further and higher education. And about 10 years ago, we were asked by our members to help them be better at environmental management. Student groups were doing a lot of campaigning around ethical procurement. They were challenging big business on their environmental impact, but they realised that they weren't necessarily walking the walk. So they asked us to develop something to help them with that. And that's what Green Impact looked like 10 years ago. It was an environmental management system for students' unions. It had a slight competitive element. So every year we gave out bronze, silver and gold awards to students' unions for their activities. But very soon we realised that the model had a whole host of other potential benefits. And since then it has expanded to cover a whole host of different environments. We work with a lot of different organisations with the model. So I'm just trying to figure out how to change my slides with this programme. So sorry. So we now really see four main benefits out of running the programme. We're trying to create a social norm of sustainability on and around our campuses. Our research shows that one of the main reasons students don't feel that they should take sustainable behaviours as a norm for themselves is they don't see that as a norm for other people. So we want to really create a social norm of sustainability on campuses. We want to provide excellent development opportunities for students so that they really understand what sustainability is about, but have the passion and the skills and the understanding and the knowledge to really become sustainable change makers, both at the time while studying, but also in their future lives and careers. We want to enable student and staff collaboration so that this isn't a top-down approach, this isn't a student campaign, but something that's really co-designed by the people it's aimed at engaging with. And really we want to use it as a springboard to catalyse further sustainability work. So those are the main reasons that we run the programme now. Since its inception 10 years ago, it's expanded quite substantially. We now work with nearly 400 organisations in the UK, but also in Germany, the Netherlands, Canada, and Australia. And those countries are growing, which is very exciting. And since the programme's inception, we've recognised over 250,000 actions that groups of staff and students are undertaking together. We train nearly 1,000 students a year, and last year over 7,000 tonnes of CO2 were saved. So it depends on what your motivations are for looking at staff and student engagement, but whether it's student development, whether it's environmental impacts, whether it's recognition for your organisation, Green Impact hopefully provides something for you. So the way that it works now for universities is a very simple 6-step programme. And what's really important to note is that this is developed completely in mind with your university or your college. So the programme at the University of Melbourne will look completely different to the university at Monash, will look completely different to the University of Sydney, because the timescales will be different, the content will be different, what people are aiming for the programme will be different. So we know that the process and the model works, but we adapt and flex it depending on who we're working with to make it really impactful. And the first step is all about making sure that that happens. So it's all about planning and toolkit development. So what we do at this stage is we analyse what is the institution aiming for? What are its objectives? What are its publicly available objectives in terms of what it's trying to achieve with sustainability? But what are its internal objectives as well? Are there issues that have cropped up in the past that need to be resolved? Is there common areas of bad practice that need to be improved? Are there pockets or common good practices that people want to see more widely spread across the campus? What areas of specialist environmental impacts are there? Are there lots of laboratories? Are there catering outlets? So we really go through a learning process to understand, what is this institution about now? What is it doing? What are the people that study and work within that institution doing on a day-to-day basis in terms of sustainable behaviours? But also, what do we aim for? What are we asking them to do to improve those practices and really embed sustainable behaviours across their work and their workplaces? So we go through a big learning process, and off the back of that we develop a toolkit that's bespoke to that organisation. And that toolkit is fundamentally a list of simple actions that people can take on a day-to-day basis. So it's no point us putting things in there about the amount of renewables generation that your campus has, for example, because most staff and students have no control over the energy makeup that sources your campus. Instead, it's about day-to-day things that people have control over. So whether that's around simple environmental management messaging, around waste, about energy efficiency, whether that's signposting to sustainable transport initiatives that exist, sustainable catering or well-being initiatives, whether that is looking at curriculum, so analysing where sustainability already is within the curriculum, where that could be improved. We want to build a toolkit that is made up of actions that when people, staff and students who are going to use the toolkit open it, they say, okay, I understand these actions, they're relevant to me. At that stage, we'll also plan some communications to make sure that the programme is wide-reaching, and we'll also plan monitoring and evaluation. So how will we analyse, how will we collect data to ensure that at the end of the cycle we know that we've done a good job? The second stage is all about team recruitment. So Green Impact is based around teams rather than individuals. So we ask people to form teams in their workplaces. These can be geographic teams, it could be a building, a floor of a building, they can be department-based teams, and wherever possible we encourage staff and student collaboration. So normally they're staff-led and student-supported, and we train students as project assistants to support their teams over the course of a year. So providing extra resources, but also providing development and engagement opportunities for students as well. And once we have our teams and we have our toolkits, we match them together, and teams work through the toolkit to embed and change their sustainability practices. Throughout that process, we give them support. It's not a passive programme. So that support again varies depending on the organisation, what culturally fits. But it could be a series of workshops or webinars or lunch and learns. It could be a new newsletter series. It could be a column within a magazine. It could be regular phone rounds. It could be peer-to-peer support that we facilitate. But it's really important that teams know that they're not alone, know that other people at the organisation are working on these issues, and know where to go for help and inspiration. After a set period of time, and again the timescales vary, we ask people to submit their toolkits. That doesn't mean that they're stopped, it just means that they give us a snapshot of what they've achieved over the course of that year, so that we can recognise those achievements. We train students as auditors. Auditors is quite a scary word. People always get a little bit worried about their audits, but they're there for a threefold purpose. One, to verify the results, because there is a slight competitive recognition element, so we want to make sure that the results of the programme are fair. But we also want to provide teams with extra support, somebody turning up in person to view the work that they've done, to provide them with encouragement, to signpost them to further resources, to suggest next steps, for example. And the third purpose of the audits is to collect feedback on how the program's impacted that team, areas for improvement, areas that have been particularly successful, so we can monitor what sort of impact the program's having. So once all the teams have submitted their toolkits, they've received their audit, we know who's done what, we hold an awards event. This is a celebration. It's about recognising the input that staff and students have had, recognising the achievements that they've made, providing them with some recognition for that, and also using the event as a way to raise the profile of sustainability on campus and in the community as well. So this is a really good way to engage with senior managers, to engage with the wider community about your sustainability work, but just to make people feel really recognised for their involvement in this agenda. They're very lovely dues. The University of Melbourne was last month. Sue might tell us a little bit more about that later on. The final stage in the annual cycle is feedback and evaluation. So this is when we collect all the data we've been collecting. We analyse that, we find out what the program's achieved in terms of staff attitudes and behaviours towards sustainability, ditto for students, what skills they've developed, but also what actions people have undertaken, the environmental impacts of that action, also areas for improvement of the programme as well. And that feeds into the planning and toolkit development for the next year of the cycle, because unfortunately behaviour change takes time. It's not something that we're able to claim we can do for a whole campus in a year. And different universities that are involved in the programme use the programme for different amounts of time. So some people have been using it since its inception as a way of continuing to engage new groups in sustainability and underpin their sustainability messaging to make sure people are consistently working on similar things. Other people use it for a couple of years to really build engagement for sustainability before springboarding into more strategic long-term activities. So people use it in different ways, and we're quite happy with that. Some of the reasons we think it works, we take a really holistic approach to sustainability. So whether people are interested in food or waste or the curriculum or transport or engagement or community outreach, there's something in the toolkit for them. There's something to say, okay, we can get involved in this. This is either something we've been thinking about doing, we're already doing, but we want recognition for, or we want to further our work. So we try and take as broad an approach as possible. And some organisations we work with really take this approach as one of the benefits of the programme, that they say, okay, well, strategically we know that we've got a problem with staff wellbeing, so we're going to frame our Green Impact programme in wellbeing terms. Other people use it very much as an umbrella for all of their sustainability activities. They say, okay, well, we have these different programmes running already. We're going to use Green Impact as an umbrella programme to signpost people to that breadth of initiatives. And we're quite happy for it to be as broad or as narrow as is appropriate for the organisation. Thought I'd share with you just a little bit of visuals from the toolkit itself, just so I can explain a couple of other things as well. So in the majority of cases, universities frame their programs in terms of bronze, silver and gold awards. We have a little bit of flexibility for that. Some universities do it differently, but you'll notice here on the left hand side there's a lab section. So we have developed over the years a number of specialist activities that labs, catering outlets, ground and maintenance staff, accommodation managers, and faculty and academic staff can undertake, because obviously their impacts and their reach are very different. So we've developed specific actions for those groups of staff so that they feel that the programme is really relevant to them. We also have a special awards category that all of our organisations use, which are more traditional open nomination awards. So it could be Sustainability Hero, it could be Best Student Leader, it could be Innovation for Engagement, these kind of open categories that people can nominate submissions for. And it could be in the long term that those feed into the Green Gown Awards, or they could feed into the Green Impact National Awards as well. So there's different opportunities for that. And this is what the toolkit looks like when you get a little bit further. So here's an example action from the University of Birmingham's toolkit, which says that there's just one example activity. There's clear guidance on how staff can double side copy within readable distance of each photocopier. And you'll see that for each action, there's areas for further information on how you'll be audited, and information, an area for comments and evidence as well. So we've designed this toolkit to be very simple in terms of how it's used, but quite sophisticated in terms of its functionality as well. So the data we can pull from it hopefully will be useful for you in terms of your monitoring for the levels of engagement you have. One sneaky thing that we did when we designed the toolkit a number of years ago, when a team marks that they've done an action, here on the right hand side, a little pop-up box arrives and it says, were you doing this already, or have you been doing this as a direct result of the program? So we can monitor what activities are we recognizing that was good practice that existed already, but what's being initiated directly from the program as well. So that's how it works, and a little bit about why NUS delivers the program. From our own monitoring and evaluation over the years, we've found that there's a whole host of reasons that organisations benefit from delivering the program. Some of these we were aiming for when we designed the program: the staff and student engagement opportunities, the development opportunities for students, reducing energy waste and water. These were all things that we were explicitly trying to achieve. Some things we've realised are a benefit of the programme that were side effects, but we're very pleased about. So, for example, building community cohesion and breaking down silos. This is something that people repeatedly tell us as a result of Green Impact. They're better networking across the organisation. They're better understanding what other departments do. They feel less isolated in their sustainability work. Staff are consistently telling us that they have improved morale and pride in their organisation, which is really fabulous. So there's a whole host of different things that people cite as benefits for getting involved. And here's what some people have told us too. So from a student perspective, people really like the idea that they can see what their university or their college is doing for sustainability. They can see what practical skills they can develop that enhance their employability, but also enhance their skills to affect change. In some cases, we link the student involvement with academic courses as well, so students are getting credit for their involvement in the programme. Like I say, staff quite often tell us that not only has this been a fun part of their role, in some cases the most fun elements of their role, which is a little bit worrying, but also rather nice to hear. Staff see it quite regularly as CPD, professional development for themselves, in terms of a new learning opportunity, a new area where they can affect change. And we're really pleased that over the courses of over the 10 years we've been running the programme, a real groundswell has developed in terms of people seeing the benefits of collaborative working, engaging students in the design of programmes, and really thinking about what staff can do and how champions can be supported to deliver real change. The first university we ever ran the programme with, I think one of the main incentives for them to get involved was that they had a whole network of champions that had been recruited and had been trained, but didn't really know what they could do. So Green Impact gave them the permission and the structure to say, this is exactly what being a champion looks like at this institution, and this is how it relates to our targets and our objectives and our sustainability strategy. So there is an overview of the programme. I suppose I should immediately ask for any questions, but I don't know whether Leanne, Risa, is there anything that I didn't cover that you would like me to? And are there any questions?
Sorry, Charlotte, I'd muted myself. No, I think what you've done is a great overview, and we are going to have a listen to what Sue has to say as well. So perhaps we'll segue into Sue so she can kind of follow on from what you've given us already, and then people have an opportunity to also start to think about what questions, and if they like, they can add their questions into the panel box and we can collect them and feed them back to you and or Sue as we need to.
Perfect.
So I'll get Rhiannon to pass on over to Sue now.
Hi everybody, can you all hear me? Just checking, because sometimes I have technical issues. I'm assuming you can. Well, thanks, Charlotte. That was a fantastic introduction to the programme, and I was sat here nodding away at everything you said, so that was good. So I'm not going to introduce myself. Everyone knows me, obviously. Oh, here we go. Now I knew I'd have technical difficulties. There we go. So I'm just going to come in now and have a chat about what we've done at the University of Melbourne and how it's gone for us in our first year. First of all, though, I'd like to say we're actually delighted to be the first organisation in Australia to actually implement this programme. We've had a lot of fun, and it's been a fantastic year. So straight off the get-go, we've had a really positive experience. Why did we choose Green Impact? Basically, as Charlotte actually said there right at the end, the reason why we actually went with Green Impact is because we at Melbourne have a sustainability advocates group, about 170 people, around about 50 active staff members, all champions within the departments. And basically, we just kept getting the feedback. What is it that I can do? How can I be more sustainable to my departments? How can I get other people doing it? They just didn't really know what they were supposed to do. So the Green Impact Programme was a great example of how, as Charlotte said, we could provide people with a framework and a structure and have them be empowered to actually go back to their departments and actually start making the changes that they wanted to do. Also, it was a tried and tested model. It's been run successfully for the last 10 years. And I actually knew about the program. So I was really confident that it was a good program. I knew the people running the program back in the UK. So I was, like I said, I was really confident there was going to be a good program and we could work with it. So that was the reason why we chose the Green Impact model at Melbourne. So I know Charlotte's already talked to you about this slide, so I'm not going to talk in a lot of detail, but I was just, what the difference between my side is I've actually put the dates there that's actually worked with the Australasian sort of timeframes, with our campus timeframes. So we actually started planning and toolkit development back in December of 2016, and I worked very closely with Charlotte and Joe. Many of you will have met Joe at the X conference a couple of weeks ago. I worked very closely with both of them to actually develop the toolkit and actually get everything sort of started. And then we launched in March, which was basically at the start of semester one, so that worked really well. Recruited all our teams, recruited the students throughout sort of April to June time, really, which is when we did our major recruitment. And then we provided ongoing support to both the teams and the students until our workbook deadline was in August. We then trained up our auditors in September and undertook the audits. And then we had our awards in November. And we actually had our awards ceremony on the 9th of November, which was the week after the X conference, which was a really bad idea. And I don't think I'll be doing that again next year. But the actual event itself went really well. We had some fantastic positive feedback, so that was great. And now we're back in the sort of feedback and evaluation stage. So again, I'm going to be working very closely with Charlotte and Joe, hopefully, to basically evaluate that feedback, evaluate our toolkit, and basically make sure that we take on board all that feedback that we've got from Melbourne this year and basically make it as good a program next year. So just thought I'd bring in the timescales there so that you're familiar with how it worked in an Australasian context. This is just a snapshot of what we've actually achieved here at Melbourne. So when we originally decided to run the program, I remember having the conversation with Charlotte, I think, of, what in the first year, how many teams do most people normally get? And obviously it varies for every single institution depending on the size, but I remember thinking, right, okay, I'm going to be really pleased if I get 10 teams, really pleased. Well, we got 10 teams in the first week that we launched the program, and by the end of it we had 30 teams, so I was really blown away by that and really pleased. And so that equated to about 270 people across the institution who had actually physically signed up to the workbook. Now obviously that, potentially you're influencing far more people than that because not everybody signs up to the workbook. But obviously there were some people in there who signed up and then weren't necessarily engaged. So that's a sort of guesstimate, if you like. And for all those teams, we undertook 553 direct actions logged in the workbook. So that's a phenomenal achievement. You think back to our Sustainability Advocates group, you had all these people wanting to do stuff, we provide them information. There was never a two-way flow of information. We never knew what people were really doing in their departments, and now we know that 553 things have gone on that potentially hadn't gone on before. So that was a great success for us. I'm not going to talk about the workbook because Charlotte's already talked about it, but that just gives, I say I'm not going to talk about it, not in any detail, but that's obviously our frontage is very similar to the one that Charlotte just showed you with Birmingham. They're all very similar, but obviously this is just branded for us. And also, if you look at the left-hand side, you'll see that we went for the structure of bronze, silver, and gold, along with some special awards. As Charlotte probably said as well, that the one thing that I love about this program is it's completely and utterly flexible. To you and your institution. It's totally and utterly bespoke. You have complete autonomy over the content that goes in it. And the way you structure it it is entirely up to you. We decided to go with the standard bronze, silver and gold because it seemed the most obvious, and it was it's simple for people to understand that concept. But we also went with the some special awards below, which included things like, you know, recognizing an environmental hero, so individuals within teams, and also one of the key things about the workbook is obviously you can come up with all these different actions, but there will be things that you'll miss, or not necessarily miss, but there will be things that you can't include. So we had some special awards basically that allowed people, if they'd done something quite innovative or something that wasn't in the workbook, they could submit it as a special award and get recognition for that. So things like we had a department do a big plant pot sale within their department, which wasn't a direct action in here. Another department did a clothes swap. Again, that's not a direct action in here. So so they were recognised for those things. Just building on the one thing that Charlotte said as well is that for year 2, we're actually going to be looking at having a lab section in ours. As many as you know, with universities, we have a lot of research going on. We've actually had quite a number of research labs actually take part this year, so we're actually going to make sure we have some direct actions for them next year. I'm glad I didn't do it in the first year though. I'm glad we started off fairly simply, although it was quite big, but now bringing in the lab section in year 2 and beyond I think is good, but I'm glad we didn't do it in the first year. I think it would have been too much. And just some examples of some of the kind of actions the teams did. You know, this is University House. They've got a herb garden. This is somebody given a green morning tea. This is a department who basically got rid of all their disposable water bottles for all their speakers. They had a lot of speakers, a big speaker program, so they basically invested in reusable water bottles. Another team who did again, pot plant sale, and this team over here who went for a gold action straight away and installed a worm farm, which is good. Okay, so I hope you like the little GIF, but basically I was just going to very quickly talk about the 3 key reasons why I think the program's been successful for us at Melbourne. And the first one is basically a shared passion. So as we all said at the very beginning, we had a number of people who were very eager, very passionate, wanting to do something, but they didn't necessarily know what it is that they could do, and they weren't necessarily connected to other people who felt the same way. So one of the reasons why I think this program has worked is because it has given people a shared passion, it's connected people, it's built a network, and people have now got something that they can go and chat about, and they've got a network to support them. I remember one of the training sessions that we ran throughout the year. It was the first training session we ran with staff. I remember walking into the room, and the buzz and the atmosphere in the room was fantastic. People had already just started chatting about what they were doing and what they could do. I might as well have not been there, to be honest, but it just gave people that foundation that they can work towards. The next one is an empowering framework. So again, often people can feel overwhelmed with a challenge as big as sustainability. Like I said, people don't necessarily know what to do, or they'll start with the basics, or they don't necessarily have the vision to know what to move on to next. So what Green Impact has been great at is actually giving them a framework that they can basically say, right, I like all these actions, those are the ones I'll tackle. So taking it back a step, within our workbook, we had, I think, 25 actions for each accreditation level, but each team only had to actually undertake 15 actions to get that accreditation level. So we wanted to give people choice and flexibility with what they could do, because the more choice, we felt the more choice we gave people, the more likely people were to engage with the program. Like if we'd said to them, you have to undertake every single action, but there were certain actions they didn't feel comfortable doing or didn't want to do, then that would put people off. So what we thought was give people the choice, give people the ability, make it easy for them, and they're more likely to do it. And also the reason why it's an empowering framework is because it meant that people have been able to go back to their departments and they feel now they have justification in running this. You know, they've got the backing of the university, the backing of senior management. It's a recognised programme within the university. So people can go back to their teams and say, right, guys, we're going to do Green Impact. It's not me just wanting to do something. It's actually the university calling us to action, and I'm going to champion this. So again, that was probably one of the most successful things for us. And lastly, as Charlotte said, because basically it's fun, it's flexible, and essentially it's easy. People are just, they've got the workbook in front of them. So it's all kind of been mapped out for them to a degree. So it's a pretty straightforward, simple process. I can't tell you the number of times I went out to departments and I said to them, this should not be onerous. It should be fun. It should be flexible. Just do whatever it is that you can do within your departments. We had some teams that undertook 2 actions. We had some teams that actually reached silver in their first year. I mean, they gave the sustainability team the run for the money. I remember at the very beginning, we said, oh, do you think we can actually have a team? And we were like, oh, well, if we do, maybe we should take ourselves out of the running for any kind of awards and stuff, you know, because obviously we're going to be like the best people in this. And we weren't. That was the funny thing. We weren't. I think it was generally because we were so busy running the program, we didn't have actually time to implement the program. But having said that, yeah, it's about being fun, flexible, and easy. I think people really got on board with that. Okay, so just very briefly, I just wanted to talk about some of the time, resource, and challenges we encounter from a back end, because even though it was a really fantastically positive program, obviously, you know, everyone has a few issues. And I've also had quite a few questions from people asking me, you know, how much time did you dedicate to it? What kind of resource do you need? So basically, when I started, when we signed up to the program, it was just me, and I was just working 2 days a week. So I was able to do all the evaluation and get all the workbook done in 2 days a week. It did basically take up all of my time though. So I did obviously, it was the full 2 days. And it was just me up until the launch. Luckily, within my department, as we were launching, we actually got a grad within our department. That wasn't anything to do with us. It was just a university initiative. But looking back now, I don't know how I'd have delivered the program without him. So he was full time, but he probably dedicated 2.5 days a week of his time to this program. So I would say roughly it was just under 1 full-time equivalent for that 6 months. So between the end of March when we launched, up until when the audits and finishing all the audits, I would probably say it was about a 4.5 day a week job. However, I don't want that to scare anybody, because at the end of the day, we decided to put the resources into this program. We decided to go, my mentality was, well, if we're going to run it, we might as well run it well. So that was my thinking. And so we did dedicate a lot of time. You know, we trained up our student assistants. In fact, we had 2 training courses for student assistants. We ran 2 staff training workshops. We ran drop-in sessions on a monthly basis for people. I can't tell you the amount of one-to-one meetings I went to chat to people about the program and stuff. So we delivered a weekly update to all the teams that signed up. So we put in a lot of time and resources to the program. So I wouldn't necessarily say that was, I wouldn't necessarily say you need that amount of time, but if you're going to, and bear in mind, Melbourne's a very big organisation as well. So again, if we were going to have any kind of real impact, we had to have the resources to get out to all the different departments that are out there. So, so from a time perspective, that's what we did. From a resource perspective, so obviously it was the initial cost of the program, running the program, which is we'll talk about that in a minute. Teams, one of the questions I was asked is from teams, is there any budget? Well, basically a lot of the actions the teams undertake, they budget from their own, so their actions they take from their own budgets. But there was a couple of things we did. We did develop some central resources ourselves. That was things like we created stickers, we created posters, we created that kind of stuff for the team. So we financed that and then made it widely available to everybody. But again, you don't have to do that. That was just something we decided to do because we had the budget to do it. Obviously, we then had some budget to run some the catering for the training events we put on. So again, that was probably 4 or 5 training events that we ran throughout the year for both staff and students. There was some financial cost to that, but again, you don't have to do that. And then obviously there was the cost to actually run the award ceremony. Again, we were very, very lucky. We decided, originally I was going to go all gung-ho and have this amazing award ceremony, you know, but bear in mind I was working on the Green Gown Award ceremony at the time, so I think I got a bit carried away. But then actually it was after chatting to Charlotte, I think, and she was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. I was like, yeah, it's a bit crazy as well. So we scaled it back. And in the end, one of the teams that was taking part in the program, which was University House, they actually approached us and said, we'd like to actually offer you the whole event free of charge, because we were so enthused with the whole program. So we ended up actually not paying for our awards ceremony, which was fantastic. And just on the last thing about resources, we did say to teams as well at the very beginning, if they came across some kind of action that they were interested in, that they felt they had benefits for the wider university community, to come and speak to us, and we'd see if there was any kind of budget, any kind of financing from a central resources budget. One of the things that's come out of the first year is that a lot of people are interested in composting. That was one of the major questions. So we now, as a department, are looking at how we can basically improve our on-campus composting to make it easier for people. So that is an infrastructure initiative that we will look at that will hopefully benefit all the teams moving forward. But again, that's just one example of something that's come out of it. You don't have to do that. And lastly, just the challenges. I guess probably the biggest challenge for anybody undertaking this program, whether it's us delivering it or whether it's the people taking part, is time. Some people are time poor, some people don't have the capacity or the time to put into it. So that's probably the biggest challenge for everybody. Like I said, it was fairly resource intensive for us this year, but that was our choice to make it like that. It won't be the same for us next year, because a lot of the things that we set up this year will already be there for next year. So I'll just have to tinker with them and improve them. So even though, you know, obviously I will need resources, it won't be quite as resource intensive. And obviously with any new program, it's the unknown. So it's always going to be more intensive, and time is obviously going to be more of an issue in the very first you run anything, because you just don't know what's going to happen. And I suppose for us, even though I said work in isolation, we didn't have any issues with work in isolation, so that's not a negative. But what I am going to say is, I think it's going to be fantastic next year having all you guys and other institutions on board. I'm really looking forward to being part of a bigger program when it comes to delivering this program. So even though I've had the most amazing support from NUS and I've thoroughly enjoyed it, it will actually be nice for me to actually connect with you guys. And then just finally, the very last slide, even though we haven't actually done the full evaluation and feedback from the program in its entirety, I did do a feedback survey myself at the end of the program, and this is just a very quick snapshot of what the participants actually said. So basically 95% said they enjoyed the program. I don't know about the other 5%. I'm going to kind of ignore the other 5%. 100% of them said they felt supported by us, which is great. So it meant that all the resource and time we put into it is obviously paid off. 98% said they'd recommend to others. So even that small 5% said they didn't enjoy the program said they would actually recommend it. So that's great. 100% of the team said they found their student assistants helpful. Now, I've got to say, you don't have to run with your student assistants, but they were an absolutely phenomenal part of this program, and I would hands down have them again. Yes, it took time in actually training them, and yes, it took time, you know, it took resources to actually support them, but they brought such a fantastic dimension to the program that yeah, I would do it 100 times over. Everyone said the workbook was fairly easy to use, you know, that was fine. And just the main benefits there, like I said, the main challenge there, I think my screen's kind of cut off in a minute. I think the main challenge there, everyone said, was time, and that's only something that each team can work on. I mean, if you've got a big team that's very supportive, obviously the whole time thing is less intrusive. But I know one person came up to me, and she was a fantastic team, and she said to me, I ran it myself this year, she said, and I just don't know if I can do that next year. So we're going to try really hard and work with her to see if we can get other people in her department working on it. And the main benefits, like I said, were making the office greener, raising awareness about environmental issues, and getting to know others, team building, camaraderie. That is probably the most positive feedback I had out of it, and that is probably the takeaway message that I would say to anyone thinking about it. The actual people getting involved in the program, getting to know other team members that, you know, because everyone works in big departments, you know, and you don't necessarily talk to everybody, but this program just gave everyone the ability to talk to people outside the normal day job, because it was a common goal for everybody. So the camaraderie and the things that they did, I think was one of the really positive things that came out of it. So finally, that's my contact details, and that's us in the office. So that's me, done. Thank you.
Thanks, Sue. Obviously, Sue gave us a very contextual part of her experience with GI from the Uni of Melbourne perspective. I just want Charlotte to quickly come in because Uni of Melbourne is quite a large institution with quite a lot of support, and I think it'd be worthwhile Charlotte giving us some examples where that hasn't been the case and how Green Impact is run. So over to you, Charlotte.
Absolutely. I mean, the programme that Sue has outlined there has been an incredible first year. It's been a real pleasure to see it develop. But I have to say, out of the organisations I've worked with over the past 8 years with the programme, University of Melbourne has probably resourced its programme amongst the best. I'd definitely say top 5 in terms of amount of time and resource that I've put into it. And that's not always a luxury that organisations we work with have. So some people have to run the programme with much tighter resources. So it might be worthwhile me outlining some of the ways that we do that. So in terms of the staff time that goes into it, Sue outlined herself and her graduate intern providing nearly a whole week's worth, well, she said just under a full-time equivalent delivering the programme. In some cases, we have a singular sustainability manager who wants to deliver the programme for an organisation who's also responsible for everything else that falls within that umbrella. So in their cases, we're running the programme with probably a couple of hours, half a day input a week, annualised. There are certain times in the cycle where it really does take more time than that. The toolkit design is really important, especially in the first year. It really is the backbone of the programme. It's the most public-facing element of the programme. It's the thing that your staff champions are going to be using on a day-to-day basis. So if you're not able to provide that support to them face-to-face, then the toolkit needs to be really, really good so that they have that. They can find information, they can find support remotely. So at certain times of the year, toolkit development, audits and awards ceremony planning, there'll be more than that time a week, but over the course of the year, you can minimise it. Depending on your relationship with ACT and NUS as well, we can sometimes provide added support to help with some of that day-to-day team support, day-to-day student support, and Leanne will talk a little bit about how ACTs are going to be supporting the programme in a minute. When Sue first outlined to me her plans for the awards ceremony in Melbourne, I was incredibly jealous that I wasn't able to be there in person. It's one of the downsides of working so well remotely. It sounded fantastic, proper fancy pants, really glitzy, really fabulous in terms of a way of creating a real buzz about sustainability, really providing that recognition for staff and students involved so they felt special and they felt rewarded for their involvement. I've been to award ceremonies where it is a 10 o'clock in the morning, cup of tea, round of biscuits, a senior manager coming into a normal seminar room to thank everyone for being involved, to hand out the awards. It doesn't matter. It's lovely if you have the resources to do the former, but what you really need to make sure from your awards event is that people see that they're being recognised. They see the efficacy of their actions. It's not just them taking part in this. There is a wider community. People can see the wider impact that they're having through the programme, and that's the really important thing. So if you're low resource, and you can still be creative in terms of how you can do that. Some of our organisations have got sponsors for their awards, so they can. I remember the very first year we had nearly a forest of trees in a room at the University of Bradford because the local garden centre had sponsored the awards event. So people got different sizes of trees depending on what they had achieved, and that was at no cost to universities. There's different ways of being creative, but it does take time. And we want to work with organisations who are ready to commit to running the programme so that it is a success. It doesn't run itself. It is a dynamic, active programme. So it does have to be some element of input for both sides to make it work.
Thanks, Charlotte. I thought it was necessary to give that overview so that people didn't think they had to have a full-time person that was going to run it, which is a good segue.
Well,
sorry, Charlotte.
Actually, Leanne, on that, in that when we first ran the programme with universities back in 2009-10, that academic year, I don't recall there being anybody in the UK whose job it was to engage staff and students in sustainability. Now I think there's about 30 members of staff across institutions here whose day job, full-time it is, to lead on engagement, communications. And I think some of that we can actually put down to the fact that this programme provides some structure and shows the benefit of that. So it's helped build capacity in the long term, and through graduate programs like the one that Sue was able to benefit from, we've also built a lot of capacity in the graduate community in delivering the program as well. So quite a few organisations we work with will work with student graduates to actually lead on that day-to-day delivery of the program as well. Sometimes they're internal from a university internship program, and sometimes they're external too. So it's just a few extra points.
Great, thanks Charlotte, which is a good segue into me really giving you a brief understanding of what support ACTS will be providing for the rollout of Green Impact within the institutions that sign up. And essentially we provide a communications support element, so we help you with any design and distribution of newsletters that you may want, so that we've got a template there and we can help you utilize all that. We go to your institution for a day to nut out that really important element of the toolkit, which is, as Charlotte said, one of the most important things you can do is learn how to get that toolkit right. So an ACTS person will come on site, sit with you for the day to make sure that we go through the toolkit, you understand the toolkit and anything else that you may need in order to put your toolkit together to get the best outcome for you and the institution. We'll also be there providing support in the background whenever you need us. We do the training of the students, or the Green Impact Project Assistants, as you can call them, so that you can actually step out of that or be a part of that, but we can provide that training for you. Generally, we'll have to do that remotely via Skype, but it will be part of the package that we'll provide. We also do the training for the auditing, so that students that come in and do the auditings for the end of year understanding of what level each of the different teams will be at. We provide the training for that, and obviously we provide support and advice regarding the auditing as well. We have a lot of templates that have been given to us by Green Impact that we can also provide, and generally we can help with the monitoring and evaluation ongoing. So things like feedback surveys for your participants, but also for your auditors and your students specifically. We can do an analysis of that data, and obviously an analysis of your toolkit, start to think about what's shining through within after your first year, how do you leverage on what's working really well, all of those kinds of things in the background. So you'd essentially be getting someone from the ACTS staff who would be providing a certain number of hours of support throughout the implementation of the Green Impact program. It equates to approximately 50 to 60 hours of support from ACTS. And for that, the price that we've put the Green Impact program at is $6,500 excluding GST per institutional sign up, which is actually pretty good when you think about the value that you're getting, not just with the toolkit, but the support that you'll get from the ACTS staff. And just so you understand, we decided to run with Green Impact because it's a proven and well recognised and awarded system within the UK and Europe. It's been running for 10 years, so it has the credibility, it has the benefit of hindsight and foresight. So we know that it works, and Charlotte has demonstrated that with some of the figures that she shared with us. So why would we go and create a new program that would achieve something similar to what Green Impact does when NUS UK and ACTS can work together to deliver this program over here? I don't think there's anything more as to what I can give you in that context with regards to costing and support. We can provide more details, of course, as you need it, but I might throw back now to see if there's any of the other panelists that have any final comments before we open for any questions. I do ask anyone listening, if you do have any questions that you'd like to ask, if you could start typing those into the questions or chat there, and we can throw to you. But Charlotte or Sue, is there anything else that you haven't covered that you'd like to say?
I don't think so.
No, all I was going to say, you rightly picked up on it is that, yes, as I said before, the whole resourcing issue, you don't have to throw those kind of resources at it. Like I said, we decided to go full gung-ho this year, so please don't be put off by that. It's you should not be put off by that. Yeah, so I just wanted to reiterate that. And I'm really sorry I didn't include a slide of our award ceremony, but it's on our website, so if you want to have a quick look at our website, you can see some fancy pictures of our award ceremony.
Thanks, Sue. So if anyone does have any questions, please feel free to ask them now. And if it's a complicated question, you're quite welcome just to put in the chat or questions box complicated question, and I don't know if Ree is able to throw a mic to you, but we might even try that. So I'll give people time.
Sorry. We've got lots of questions coming through. A couple of them are asking the same. We've got a few. How do we sign up? We want to get into this. So if you're interested, then I'm taking note. But just send us an email through. Contact any of us directly, myself or Leanne, or through the info, and we'll chat to you about how we can get you signed up. The annual question came through saying, is there $6,500 an annual cost? Yes, it is, but I don't know if Leanne wants to talk to that anymore.
Yes, it is. And as per the NUS UK example, if you continue with the program ongoing, which is what usually happens in the UK, you do it ongoing for a number of years, there is a sliding scale for costing. We're yet to formalise what that may be, but you may not necessarily pay the same amount every year. As your level of understanding of the program grows, obviously your need to call on us will decrease. I should also mention that if for any reason you utilise all the hours that ACTS gives you in support and you feel you need more, we can consult out to you, or even bring in NUS UK to bring in to do consulting as well if you feel like you need more than the support hours offered.
Another of the questions that came through is regarding the relationship between ACTS and NUS. So a couple have been, will ACTS be supporting this program beyond 2018? And is this a pilot? Will it be a long-term partnership between ACTS and NUS?
Yes, definitely the plan is for it to be a long-term partnership. Many people don't know that I've actually been trying to work with NUS UK for some time to bring it to Australasia. NUS have been very keen for us to have it. We just hadn't had the right capacity to do that until now. So this is not a short-term venture between us, and the relationship between ACTS and NUS UK is actually very strong. So we have an MOU that dictates the boundaries and the scope of the delivery of the program ongoing.
Cool, thanks.
And we're very keen to help others utilise the institutional knowledge that we have in delivering the programme. We've known ACTS for a very long time. We've taken inspiration for a lot of things that happen in Australasian institutions, and now is just the right time to support that. So, the way that the relationship will work in practice is that we will support ACTS, and ACTS will support you as organisations delivering the programme. That makes sense because obviously they have a better cultural understanding. They know what you want in terms of institutions working on sustainability issues, and from just a purely practical perspective as well, it doesn't make sense for me from the northeast of the UK to be supporting organisations on the other side of the world. It just doesn't make any sense. And also NUS doesn't have a mandate to do that. Our students don't necessarily, we have plenty of work to do in the UK. So if we can support ACTS to deliver it into Australia, into New Zealand, then we're very happy to do so.
Thank you. Another question that came up, which is a really good one, is there a network of green impact institutions to also share their ideas? It's definitely our goal within ACTS to create that network of institutions that take on the program within Australasia. We want to, I think it would be a fun element to have some local competition between different institutions to see how we're going, but also to bring that network together just to share ideas and share how people are are going through the program. So ACTS will definitely want to facilitate that, and I'm sure we'll have discussions about how we can open that up in a more global context with what's happening with institutions that are doing green impact throughout the world, really.
Definitely.
We've got a lot of questions, so I'm just trying to cover as many as we can while we're still got a few minutes. One specifically for Sue is, did you get all levels of the institution involved, including leadership and executive?
Yes, we did. Okay, so it was a bit timely for us because we actually launched our sustainability plan at the beginning of this year. So we were able to actually physically link this program in as a direct target. So we didn't consult leadership to say we were going to do it, but when we brought the program in, we were able to sort of demonstrate to them that it was actually going to benefit because it was a direct target. They were happy with that. I've got to say, now that they've seen the pilot, I've actually had emails from, you know, on high saying, fantastic program, we're really looking forward to it next year. So even though we didn't bring them in initially, they've actually seen the benefits and they're really positive. So yes, we've got everybody on board.
Thanks, Sue.
We've seen it happen both ways here, in terms of whether that leadership has been there from the start or whether it comes as a result of the program. And we've seen multiple examples of both. It does help if in the early stages you do have at least a senior leader who's willing to act as something ahead of the program. That's sometimes useful, but again, not absolutely necessary.
Can I just add to that as well? Now within the second year, we've actually got quite a few senior champions, if you like, who are happy to champion it further. So, but as I say, that's been as a direct result of running the program. So I'm sure there's a lot of positivity there for everyone else.
I'm having a bit of a technical issue with the questions box, and it's not letting me expand on questions, so I can only see the first part. Seb has asked about if all universities run it as an annual program or do you run it per session? I can't read the rest of your question. I'm really sorry, Seb. So I might just see if I can quickly unmute you so that you can talk to that a bit more. Seb, do you want to?
Yeah, so the second part, thanks for that. The second part was just, I'm imagining some students might have trouble committing for a full year. So just wondering if any unis run it for a session.
So the way that there's two main ways that students are involved in the program. One is as project assistants, as Sue outlined. So that is a long-term volunteering opportunity where they're trained at the beginning of your cycle, they're buddied with a team to support and mentor them through the process. So they're part of that team for the whole cycle of the program. That's great for students that want that long-term experience. Students that don't feel they can commit to that, then the auditing is much better suited to them. That's normally a 1 or 2 day volunteering opportunity, but again, comes with approved training, and we make sure that there's really good follow-up after that volunteering as well. So they get careers guidance packs, they get a letter outlining what they've done as part of the program, a certificate, that sort of thing. We have the 1 day training, a broader project assistance experience, and then some institutions have innovated as well with how students are engaged in the program, either supporting the central delivery of the program, maybe getting events management students to deliver the awards event, getting business management students to help design the toolkit, that sort of thing. So there's other ways that you can bring students in as well, but on the whole, it's the project assistants year round or the auditors, which is a much shorter experience.
Cool. I think we've covered most of the questions that have come through. What I will do is I'll collate them all after the webinar's finished and maybe just type up a quick FAQ based on the common threads that have come through, unless anybody had any other burning questions they wanted to quickly get through. Nope.
Okay. Well, thank you to Charlotte and Sue for sharing their overview of Charlotte as the deliverer through NUS UK, and obviously Sue as the person being the lead and expert within University of Melbourne. Hopefully everybody has got a better understanding of the opportunities that Green Impact will bring within their institution. And please, if you haven't already expressed your interest or you're keen to sign up but you haven't let us know, if you could contact Rhiannon and let her know, that would be fantastic, so that we can add you to our list and we can understand how we start the planning for delivery of the program. In case I don't connect with any of you or all of you again before the festive season, I really hope that the rest of December is awesome and you have a wonderful time with friends and family over the season greetings time, and obviously into the new year. And hope that 2018 brings you all that you may wish and desire. Thanks for Charlotte for staying up so late. It's now 11 p.m. her time. So we do appreciate that you've given us your time very much outside of a normal work day.
No problem at all.
And thank you to everyone else who was on the webinar as well. Please send any follow-up questions to Rhiannon as well. Thank you, and festive season greetings to everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.